turbulent years of turbo tourers, it was time for a change. Australia opted for a return to V8s. 5-litre warfare was ready to erupt. Holden's tried and proven BP Commodore was expected to dominate. Ford's striking new EV Falcon was the hot item. As Glenn Seaton, Vic Johnson, Alan Jones and John Bowe TKO'd their rivals in the opening rounds of the Shell Nationals. Mid-season, the tide changed when a new aero pack turned around the fortunes of Holden, and it's been neck and neck between the two marques ever since. After 16 championship races, Glenn Seaton tops the scorecard with 7 wins to Alan Jones 3. Mark Scaife and Dick Johnson have 2 apiece, with Richards and Bowe on 1. Today, the 7 Network welcomes you back to Sydney's Oran Park Raceway for the big one. Grand final of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championships. Proudly brought to you by Shell. Hello again, I'm Mike Raymond and welcome to Oran Park Raceway with all the highlights of Grand Final Day of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Glenn Seaton has dominated this series since almost the outset, but there have been a few surprises over the last couple of days. Peter Brock, Alan Moffat, what a surprise in qualifying.
Yeah, it was good. You're getting into the top 6. I mean, everybody says if you have to have Paul, that's fine, but in this company, coming into the top 6 is a real credit to him.
Well, Peter Brock promised something rather special this weekend. Here's how they finished qualifying yesterday at Oran Park Raceway. Fast time going to John Bowe. Just look at that, 1/100th of a second, the difference between first and second. Glenn Seaton, third fastest, the series leader. Fourth quick, Jimmy Richards. Then, of course, Thomas Mazera and Peter Brock, 1:09.26. But the turn of a card determines everything, and Peter Brock this morning pulling the coveted #1 position out of the envelope.
I think you could feel that one coming. He was watching the other numbers, Mike, and I think he knew he had one before he pulled it out.
That put Peter Brock on pole this morning for the Peter Jackson Dash, and the fireworks came just after that. And doing a good job too is Peter Perfect.
Yes, a nice run. He came in yesterday pretty chuffed with getting into the top 6, and here he is today leading the dash for the first time this year. Great competitor. Wouldn't mind a buck for every lap Peter Brock's got under his lap.
Well, we'll see whether or not resilience plays here today. Downhill, here comes Richards. Brock shuts that option off, and Racecam shows it to you, our mobile Racecam. Out of the bottom turn, they come across the strike, 1 down, 2 to go. Red hot Peter Jackson Dash going here at Oran Park. And there's Brocky holding the inside, and Jimmy Richards swings to the outside here. He's going to cut back if he possibly can and get under him. He's going to make a move here, and does it on the inside. He goes through, Brocky back on the inside, tap, tap.
Well done, great job there. There wasn't much that Peter could do, but Richards won. Oh, here we go.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Mark Scaife was trying so desperately to win this race because he had to try and get John Bowe. Bowe says, thanks a million, Brocky, you're opening the gates for me.
Bowe's in a threatening position.
This is going to be the widest mobile Commodore that was ever fielded at Oran Park. Brock just working the averages here. John Bowe's been monstered unmercifully here by Jimmy Richards. Richards wants the front row starting spot as well. First and second in here. This is the way they start in the main today. Now, watch Richards if he gets inside Bowe. Bowe says, you'll have to go around me. They come into the final corner. Can you believe it? 1 race out from Bathurst, and Brocky is back in the winning circle. Here he comes across the line. Everyone thinks it's fabulous. John Bowe gets up for second. Third across the line will be Jimmy Richards, and fourth will be Glenn Seaton as the rain starts to fall. Let's go down to a wet Mark Osler.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, indeed, it is pouring down here now. Peter Brock, a great win. I don't suppose you realise that was your 50th pole position at Oran Park. A fabulous scrap.
Well, that's a nice thing. I hope this rain sort of either makes up its mind for the day. The last few laps of that, or last couple of laps there where it started to spit, and in the last lap it really got quite wet. Oh, boy, was it dicey. And I looked at Scaife behind me, particularly, I think Richo. Oh, they were right off the planet.
Peter Brock, why wouldn't he be happy? It's been a long time between drinks for the man they call Peter Perfect. And I'll tell you what, after the break, the Brock magic continues with heat number 1. Let's take a look at the lineup now for heat 1. Peter Brock, by winning the Peter Jackson Dash, starts on pole. John Bowe alongside of him starts out at 2. Jimmy Richards. From position number 3, Glenn Seaton from 4. Mark Scaife listed here from 5, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. From 6, 15, Thomas Mazera, the Telecom MobileNet Commodore. Then it's Dick Johnson in car number 17, followed by Larry Perkins in the Castrol Commodore. Wayne Gardner out of position number 9, and Alan Jones, a disappointment there, starts out of position number 10. Neil Crompton, a brand spanking new car today, out of 11. Tony Longhurst out of 12, Terry Finnegan from 13, Paul Morris from 14, 15 is Bob Pearson, the Pro Duck Commodore. From 16, it's Bob Jones, the Empire Max 3 Commodore. Then Mark Gibbs, the second of the GIO Commodores, out of 17. Stuart McCall in the Kartmania Commodore out of 18, Don Watson in the Holden Commodore, and out of 20, Johnny Smith, the first of the 2 leader cars. 21, Chris Smurden, the Pro-Tech Commodore. 22.53, Peter Dillman. Then it's John English in a Commodore out of 23, Colin Bond in car number 8 starts out of 24, and Neil Schembrecht in a Holden Commodore from position 25. John Cotter starts out at 26, Mike Conway from 27, Bob Holden from 28, Frank Binding out of position number 29. And the man who should have been starting up round about position number 5 or 6, Mark Scaife, because of the tyre rule, has elected to change a set of tyres. Now that puts him at the back of the field for this heat.
Back of the grid, 20-second penalty for Mark Scaife, and that's going to be a very difficult job for him as he fights his way through this field, a very competitive field. 10 seconds away from the start. As we go inside the Mobil 1 Commodore, the man on pole position, Peter Brock. John Bow.
Set now for the start of the grand final day from Oran Park Raceway. You're watching it live, and off the line, Glenn Seaton picks up a gear. They're 4 wide as they head down the front straight, and Jimmy Richards moves up alongside Peter Brock. John Bow, they're going for a 4-car. Squeeze into the first turn, and Johnson away very, very slowly. Brocky will win the charge. Down into the first turn, and here's Bow on the inside of Richards.
Johnson got caught on the start there. I think he even stalled the car. The field managed to get past him. It was a breathtaking moment as the field squeezed around him. The 17 car back into action. And talking about action, look at Peter Brock, the man on form, leads them through the first time. John Bow in second position. First of the HRT Commodores in third, and Jimmy Richards in fourth.
Brock got a brilliant start. He actually dropped the clutch exactly as the green light went off. I honestly think John
There's
Bow...
Wayne Gardner. Hanging on the wall, but
Bob
no.
Jones.
That was Bob Jones and the Ampol. He took it to the max, got the wall on the way through, and the little BMW almost kissed the Peter Jackson sign there as well. Brocky leads it. John Bow in second. Thomas Mazera got off to a pretty good start as well. Larry Perkins goes through, followed by Alan Jones. Neil Crompton is there. There's Wayne Gardner on the inside of Terry Finnegan. They make their way to the dog leg and run downhill to the left-hander. Brocky's in control of this one.
The V8s are flying at Oran Park this weekend. The top 11 under the GTR lap record. That is phenomenal. Scaife was 1.7 seconds faster than Larry's best Commodore time last year. The new aerodynamic packages are working on these cars, and they are flying as they come down the main straight for the first time, or the second time I should say. HRT in control. The first of the Wemfeld cars, massive brake lock up there from Thomas Mazera as he swings into under the bridge.
Can't do that too many times.
We go inside with Mobil 1 race cam aboard. The man who's leading this race, Peter Brock, gets the power wings and the flames leaping from the exhaust. The Shell car 18 behind him. This is a 2-car war. These 2 great adversaries. Peter Brock coming back into form at the right end of the season with the Mobil 05 Commodore.
Gee, this is good to see.
Well, this is good to see, but this is what the Ford fellows have been fearing would happen.
There's Brock going through. Next is John Bow. There's the gap back to Richards.
Alan Jones making up an enormous amount of ground under brakes there. Thomas Mazera under fire from Glenn Seaton, our new touring car champion. Larry Perkins, Neil Crompton, and the brand new Commodore Chev just turned a wheel for the first time this weekend. They're set to make great inroads on this field as the race progresses.
A little defensive driving there by Mazera, but Jones won't take too much of that.
Meanwhile, Mark Scaife's up to 24th position. That's a long, long, long way back. Dick Johnson is in 14th position, fighting his way back from that terrible start.
Dick, we looked for you and you're at the back of the field. What went wrong?
I did a Barry from Malabar, like I thought, and now it's obviously blown a hole in the exhaust, so I reckon it won't be long before the friendly EPA man might be waving a flag at me.
Well, just cool it as you go across the line.
I tell you what, it's pulled that much grunt out of it, but I don't think I'll have to cool it too much. I'll be going backwards.
Go Brocky. You've got a lot of fans here hoping he can pull one off today at Oran Park. I think the last win was the opening round at Amaru well over 12 months ago. Of course, I mentioned the battle in the race between the 2 leaders. Johnny Smith at the moment leading Peter Dillman. But Smithy leading in the Caltex Toyota Corolla Seeker, so he's having a great run here today. Peter Dillman chasing him, and if Smithy can get up, he'll win the championship with this finish. As John Bow comes in behind him, dropping down through the dog leg. That'll give you an idea of the speed difference. They've done very well this year. It's been a difficult season for them, combining with the 5-litre cars. But as you probably noticed, there is a lot of difference at this stage in Australian motorsport, the difference between British 2-litre and Australian 2-litre.
Well, absolutely, Mike. People in Australia love the 5 litres. And I'm sure in time the 2-litre formula will succeed, but there's nothing like the power of the V8s at the moment.
Well, there's the GIO, the second car, already sitting in the pits. It's out of commission today. Mark Gibbs was the driver of that, pretty lonely down in pit lane. But he has dropped it up on the inside of Alan Jones. That is no mean feat.
Who said a Commodore couldn't handle?
No wonder Crompton was enthusiastic about this car. He is matching the championship-winning car. Keep in mind, this is the car that Seaton drove to victory in this year's championship race. So there's no doubting the quality of the speed of that car, and Crompton is matching him pace for pace.
And here comes the Oran. Here's the Oran Park Gardner right behind him as well. And he has driven superbly here in this heat. I know he's got plenty of stick.
Actually, Alan Jones just held his hand out the door to wave Wayne through. I think he may have a problem with this car.
As I pointed out yesterday, Alan did mention they had a slight understeering problem with the car, so I don't know whether or not they have been able to correct that overnight.
You can't get away with understeer around this circuit, Mike.
You wouldn't find Alan Jones waving someone through an RE unless he had a problem he couldn't solve.
The South 7 Sport race cam riding on the front bumper of Tony Longhurst's car. He's going right down this front straight. Listen to him, he just lifts off a little. He's got a whole group of cars in front of him, including Larry Perkins, the Castrol Commodore. So Tony's coming into this, trying to monster them all. And as you can see here, Jones has dropped back in the pack. Larry has picked him up, and Tony Longhurst has picked Larry up.
I'll tell you who's putting in the drive of the race apart from these guys is Mark Scape. He started 29th on the grid with a 20-second penalty. He's already up to 11th position. Great fight back from the Winfield number 1. Tony Longhurst in 8th position as he hammers Larry Perkins 7th place. Castrol Commodore working hard.
Gas tank
so many times, the most evocative views of motorsport. You're right down there on the track surface. You can see every suspension movement, on and off the brake pedal, power slide as they get out, back on the gas out of the corners. Just see how hard these cars are working, Alan.
You'd like to be able to drive over Larry here.
Here he goes, up on the inside, ready for a little sway here.
Yes.
Now they've got 3 laps to go. Across the line, there's Longhurst. Up on the inside, now see whether or not that he can be passed again down the straight. Larry says, here we go. Can he drag him down to the left-hander? Yes, he can.
Just.
And here he is up again on the inside.
Tony Longhurst exploiting the sensational braking and handling abilities of this car.
Stuck the hand out the window.
Larry had to correct it quickly there. He didn't want to hit Tony.
Larry was able to rely on the grunt of the Holden V8 Commodore. In excess of 500 horsepower in a straight line is pretty hard to match, but look at Longhurst. He's got it all over him through the twisty parts of the circuit.
A little defensive move there to let Perkins know that he wanted the run up over the bridge.
John Bow still chasing. Car number 18.
Chasing is the word, Mike. He hasn't been able to take it to Brock. He may be conserving his tires a bit for the second heat, electing that second is better than nothing, but Brocky certainly laid it to the Ford boys here today.
John Bow, this performance is going to move him right up and into second place in the championship standings. Comes up on Watson's Commodore down on the inside. There's the gap back to third, Jimmy Richards, number 2. The Winfield Commodore, white flag out, 1 lap to go. Last lap board is up, and our race leader, Peter Brock, is already heading down to the left-hander at the front straight.
Tremendous performance by the Mobile Racing team here today.
There's Bow going through. Some lap cars for Jim Richards to deal with, but they're all clear. There's Brocky, steaming ahead on the final lap, coming down to the right-hander. That'll take him back over the bridge again.
Nobody can drive better in the lead than Peter Brock. He can absolutely sense the cars behind him. He doesn't need a lap board. He knows exactly where they are.
Coming down, he's got maybe a couple of slower cars to deal with. The Brock comes on to the back part of the course now, using all of the racetrack. Very smooth through here. You don't see Brocky jumping up on the ripple strips. He's coming up on the tail of Bob Pearson's Product Commodore. Downhill now. Welcome back to victory lane for Brocky. Crowd warming here in the last turn. Look at them standing and waving as Brock comes out of the corner. The checkered flag's out and Peter Perfect is back. Only a few weeks before Bathurst, John Bowe will bring them across the line to pick up second place. And Jimmy Richards will get third in car number 2, the Winfield Commodore. A fabulous drive to Peter Brock, car number 05 for the Mobile team. Steve Fraser and the boys from Advantage Racing should be delighted. Called it one short. But Brocky heads into the bottom corner. Comes up over the hill. I don't think it's going to make any difference, and the crowd was screaming. Looked like the last lap board went out. They had the flag ready. Brock still holding that advantage, been able to get by Bob Pearson and the Product Commodore.
Still thumping it down through the
Hear the crowd. Yeah. I'd love to see Brocky back.
Through the dog leg, here we are. Just a little flick to the left, down to the gears, up onto the straight.
Last corner coming up, second time around. And there is the checkered flag for Peter Brock in 05, the Mobile Commodore. All the crews along pit lane welcoming him back to the winner's circle today. And I think his last win was back at Amaroo well over 12 months ago. So Brock wins heat number 1 here today. John Bowe places in second, Jim Richards in third, Glenn Seaton in fourth. And yes, it's all happening at Oran Park Raceway. Grand final day for the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And the grand final heat about to unfold. Peter Brock has pole position in the Mobil 1 Commodore over John Bowe. Jim Richards starts out at 3, Glenn Seaton from 4, Thomas Mazera from position number 5. From 6 and 7, Neil Crompton, great qualifying effort. Wayne Gardner starts out of position 7, Alan Jones out of 8, Tony Longhurst from 9, and rounding out the top 10, it's Larry Perkins. The last few cars moving into position now. Peter Brock and John Bowe, the front row. Just look at the people here today for the Shell Series Grand Final at Oran Park. Fabulous crowd. We expect a fabulous race. They're off the line, and John Bowe gets out quickly, but none quicker than Seaton and Richards, who tries to get up on the inside of Peter Brock, and there goes Seaton down the outside. Mark Scaife splitting some early. As they come down to the left-hander, Jim Richards will take over the lead. Richards, Brock back on the inside of Seaton. Alan Jones, a brilliant start from Jones, and he's already got by John Bowe. Down to the right-hander, beneath the bridge. Here's Brock coming up on the inside.
Big brake lock up there from the 05 car. He might have even given Jim Richards a tap as they came under brakes there. Alan Jones pushes his way up to second place. Now, keep in mind, this means a lot to the Peter Jackson team. They want a 1-2 in this year's championship, and it's pretty straightforward what's going to happen here.
Brock got hung out to dry on the wall that time as they went up towards the bridge the first time, with Richards leading. The PJ team is second and third. Then it's John Bowe. Back behind Bowe and going through smartly is Thomas Mazera. Then it's Neil Crompton in the GIO Commodore.
Alan Jones has to beat John Bowe here this afternoon, this final 20-lap heat, to come second in the Australian Touring Car Championship. It's going to be quite a battle.
Well, we know one thing, they're not saving their tires now. This is it. Last round, last heat, last round of the championship. What they've got on it, they're just going to drive them into the ground.
Jim Richards lets it one ride. The new Chevy from the Fred Gibson camp, powering down the straight. And look who's been in the wars again. Mark Scaife, the front of the Winfield car, very badly damaged. Saw a tremendous charge from Scaife in the first heat to move his way up near the top 10. But he's been right in the middle of the wars in these opening laps. But he's still competitive, tucks up behind Thomas Mazera as they come round for the second time.
Peter Brock, starting on pole, has dropped back about 5 or 6 spots as they go beneath the bridge and down to the right-hander. And up on the inside comes Mark Scaife, putting plenty of pressure there on Thomas Mazera. He's trying to get up. Can't do it at the moment. And the fiberglass man has got a little work to do before the Tooheys track trials.
We're looking at the damage on the front spoiler of the Winfield car. They do rely on this aerodynamic undertray on the front spoiler quite heavily. And looking by the damage, the undertray would still be giving him some fairly effective downforce. So as long as that thing hangs together, Scaife should be okay. And you'll certainly see by his race speed compared to Mazera's car just how well the thing's hanging in there.
It looks horrible, but as long as it doesn't blow away too much more. Certainly clinging onto the back of the Holden race team car.
So Richards coming under fire from Alan Jones.
That's Glenn Seaton. Jones sits one back behind them as they come across the strike. And here's Glenn Seaton. He may have wrapped up the championship, but today he wants the grand final win. He runs in second. Alan Jones is back in third. Then it's John Bauer. So those two championship hopefuls are still fighting it out. Through the left-hander and beneath the bridge up to the right-hander.
I thought Jim Richards was playing it a little cool in the opening heat this morning, and this is evidence that he was. Saved his tires and ready to unleash them here in these last few laps.
Gets the power down, the Chevy Commodore VP. Seaton in second position, he doesn't like losing. Third place, Alan Jones, as they follow him over the bridge once again. Holden, forward, that's the top four. John Bauer, the man who ran so competitively in second place, back to fourth position.
Here's where a lot of the action is. Thomas Mazera of the Telecom Mobile Net Commodore holding Mark Scaife at bay. They work the back part of the course now. Scaife really does want to get on with this, and Neil Crompton is not too far in arrears to Scaife, and Peter Brock behind him with Dick Johnson next on the queue.
The whole field is so compressed, Mike. That's one of the features here at Oran Park all weekend. 15 cars within cooey of one another. And just look at that. If you'd take another shade of paint off that GIO car and he'd be wearing that wall. Here's Mobile One camera from Peter's car.
Peter Brock, flat, sixth gear, back to fifth. Feeds it into this very difficult left-hander, hard on the brakes, back through the gears once again. Crompton locks the brake. You can see the flames coming out of the exhaust on trailing throttle. Brock back on the gas. He was on pole position for the start of this race. Almost unbelievably, he's been swamped by about 6 cars.
Richards got a phenomenal start and really did swamp Brocky down into the first corner. I don't know what they've got in that gearbox of the Winfield cars, but when it comes to acceleration in the lower gears, they've certainly got it.
Thomas Mazera, Mark Scaife, the middle order, Neil Crompton, Peter Brock and Dick Johnson. There's Mazera going through up to the next left-hander. And there's Jones with John Bauer all over the tail of the Peter Jackson Falcon.
This is the race within a race. Alan Jones and John Bauer. Means a lot to Jonesy. Joined the Peter Jackson team at the beginning of the year. An incredibly successful run, and to cap the season with a 1-2 would mean everything to this guy, as it would for John Bauer to finish second as well.
That's the gap. Jimmy Richards leading the race. Glenn Seaton in second. Down the end of the long straight here at Oran Park. Into the kink and now up to the left-hander.
Look at that car control. There isn't one of those top 5 cars that was even wobbling through that fast left-hander. That's the kind of handling they're all going to want to have at Bathurst. Keep the speeds up through those rolling, undulating corners across the top of the mountain. It's just going to be frightening for the spectators up there in a couple of months' time.
Scaife, number 1. The man who won here last year to lock up his national title driving the Nissan GTR, back in the pack today, but he's certainly come into his own the last couple of rounds of the Touring Car Championship. Steps are up on 2 wheels through there.
So the tremendous grip this resurfacing has had on the touring cars, the lifting inside wheels all over the place. We go back inside Mobile One race cam inside Peter Brock's office. Brock in position number 8, trying to push his way past Crompton in 7th.
He's still got speed. You can see how he's closing on the GIO machine. He might be able to get a better draft this time.
That Crompton car gets out of the turns well.
Sure does. Neil was saying in a mid-race break that this new Chevrolet engine has an enormous amount of grunt, both out of the corners and top-end speed, and he's really enjoying the extra performance this car is giving him. You can see just in front, Scaife's locking up brakes, just how hard these guys are trying and how evenly matched these cars are.
To the right-hander, Brock closes a little on the GIO Commodore, but there's not enough left in reserve to be able to effectively pass him. He gets close here on the exit, switches it back on the inside.
He's trying. I don't know what he wants his hand out the window there for.
Perspiration.
This is a tough corner to be fooling around and giving hand signals.
You can see Brock just feeding in the power and oversteering slightly. Keep in mind these tyres 21 laps old, plus the dash. You're probably getting... Brock also went onto a softer compound Bridgestone, so whether the tyres are starting to get a little bit spongy, we'll see. But he's certainly not making too many inroads on Crompton up ahead of him.
Just the clunk of the gearbox there as he whips it through that Hollinger 6-speed gearbox. They sound clunky, but we haven't had one breakdown once this year.
See the camera position shake as these things come thundering under that concrete wall. Bouncing off the rev limiters, the hit 6 gear, 7,200, 7,300 RPM. And this is where the business end of the field is. Jim Richards. And haven't we seen The comeback from Jim Richards in these final rounds of the Touring Car Championship. Took a back seat to his teammate for most of the season. That sensational drive at Wanneroo Park in the wet, back with Brock. And he's done it. Pushes his way past Crompton. You can see he was menacing him for 2 or 3 laps there. Waved his arm out the window coming onto the bridge.
That would count for little with Neil. He'll be back to try and repass him shortly.
Sure will.
Race leader Jim Richards out to maybe a car length. That's about all.
Back to your comment about Jim Richards, Mark, a lot of development had to go into the new Winfield cars. They hadn't run V8s before, had the luxury of the four-wheel drive team in the past. But a credit to Jim, he's hung in there. Mark's done a lot of the development work. Obviously, the cars were not always the same. But now at the end of the season, where they're on par and equal vehicles, Jim's letting a few people know there's life in the old boy yet.
There's Alan Jones, John Bow. They still dispute 3rd and 4th. Bow hasn't let Jones get away and just pokes the nose up there to let him know he'll be there.
He looks like a praying mantis there, as if he knows what he's about to do. He's just not quite letting Alan Jones share the secret. 2 well-handling cars, great teams, represented their sponsors in superb fashion all season. Gives you an idea of the undulating nature of the Oran Park circuit. It's got a little in it for everyone. Beautifully laid out track.
Alan Jones hard at the wheel. John Bow, you can see, just using every bit of road that's available. Gets a little more speed out of this car. They come up to some slower traffic. Maybe an opportunity for Bow if Jones gets held up. He picks it nicely.
Dillman and Cotter, their BMW 2-litre cars, staying out of the way, letting the V8 split them as they come onto the front straight.
Here's Bow taking a slipstream now, but not enough runway there for him to be able to get through this kink. He's got Alan Jones saying, oops, little lock-up, and nothing too severe.
In fact, Alan, Mark Scaife closing a little on this group, but Jim Richards starting to get away from Glenn Seaton.
Great fight back in this second heat from Alan Jones. John Bow was certainly faster in the lead up to this race. 4th fastest on Friday. Was in the top 3 in both Saturday sessions. Of course, grabbed provisional pole. And Alan Jones has fought back tremendously well in this second heat.
Yes, they seem to have a handling problem with the Jones car on Saturday. He certainly didn't qualify as well as he wanted to in 10th place. Quite a long way back for his normal performances, but champion that he is, he knows how to fight, and overnight they've modified something, and he's back here with a vengeance.
How evenly matched these 2 cars are. It's been an absorbing battle between the Shell and the Peter Jackson Falcons all year. Peter Brock, meanwhile, just see going out a picture there, he's closing right into the back of Mark Scaife's Winfield Commodore.
Something happened to Peter off those opening laps. He's redeemed himself, gathered up steam, and he's back on charge, similar to his opening heat win.
There's Tony Longhurst, Paul Morris behind him. They're closing on Larry Perkins and the Castrol Commodore. BMW's hurt for power here on the long straight at Oran Park. But by crikey, they make up something on the other parts of the circuit where it's a little tighter.
We saw Tony carving up Larry in the opening heat earlier today. Longhurst in position 12th as we take race cam from the front of Tony's car. Fabulous view of Oran Park from about 3 or 4 inches above the deck.
Now, those walls come up pretty quickly too, don't they?
So look at the grunt of the V8 as they come up the hill. Tony's not giving away, he's giving away virtually nothing around this twisty, tight part of the circuit.
Just playing with the throttle there a little bit. It's only a millimetre off the floorboards. He's got it in one position, generally.
From one race cam to another, back inside. Mobil 1 race cam with Peter Brock. Locked up brake from Mark Scaife. He would feel the pressure of Mobil 1 coming on the rearview mirror of his car. Tucks into the drive, lets him feed the gears through the Hollinger box. Up to 5th, then another one. Bang into 6th. 250 kilometres an hour. Tries to stay in the drive. You can see Scaife weaving hard under brakes. They've got some slow traffic coming up here once again. Tremendous battle from these 2. Brock, the man in form in the opening heat, and fighting his way back in heat number 2.
Well, Scaife certainly has worked the tyres, Alan, in the first heat, and certainly here in the second.
They have a lot of confidence, and credit to them. Their Yokohama teammates have fought hard all year long to get in sync with the balance that they require in these Winfield Commodores. It's been a tire war all year long.
Meanwhile, the two blue cars, Glenn Seaton and Alan Jones, second, third, and John Bowe fourth as Jimmy Richards disappears into the distance.
Well, there may be a bit of team driving going on here.
Oh.
Jones has slipped through into second place. Seaton goes back to third.
Yes, they want this one too. It's a great thrill for a team.
This will be fascinating stuff. Let's see if Seaton plays rear guard action with John Bowe.
Half distance.
I'm sure Bowe would have seen this little move take place.
I wouldn't like it much, but if the shoe was on the other foot, you could be sure there'd be two shell cars would be doing the same. But saying to field two cars, start them, finish them well, finish the
That's very
championship.
close. There's been 3 or 4 body contacts
Well,
there. Bowe has looped it.
He's lost his cool.
That's the
He was
championship.
cheesed off with the move there on Seaton and took out his frustration with a little bump. It was a premature bump. It wasn't going to gain him anything.
Oh, look, and he almost sends Larry Perkins off into the bridge abutment there.
Might have a problem with the wheel here on the right-hand front.
Well, he's
Have a look.
He's just handed it to them. Any chance of...
So, bang, and then another one.
Yes, he climbed up perhaps on the inside wheel and then spun it around.
He certainly came very, very deep under brakes.
Lucky to miss that tire wall there. That wouldn't have augured too well for a Bathurst test day in a couple of days.
Pressure off for Jimmy Richards, car number 2. Winfield Commodore leads the grand final heat at Oran Park this afternoon. He opens up the gap as he comes down the front straight. Alan Jones runs in second. Glenn Seaton is third.
Well, that incident with John Bowe shows that these drivers are not robots. They have to perform in a robotic manner, but they certainly aren't. They're as emotional as any other sport, and unlike tennis and golf, where the participants have the opportunity to throw the racket and the club down on the ground, it's a bit hard to do that with a steering wheel, but I think John Bowe did lose his cool then and certainly handed the 1-2 championship to the Peter Jackson team.
Over the top of the bridge, Jimmy Richards.
5 seconds, the gap back to Alan Jones.
Let's take a look at the Shell race score, how they're running on the circuit. Jimmy Richards leads from Alan Jones. Glenn Seaton runs in third. Thomas Mazzera is fourth. Mark Scaife is fifth, and we'll be back at the park just a moment. Mark Scaife, problems here. Car number 1 has pulled up off the circuit. He was up to fifth in the race. Desperately unlucky run for Mark Scaife. His day turned a little sour this morning when he got it around sideways and spun it in the Peter Jackson dash, then had to start off the back of the field in heat 1 after changing a set of tyres. In the meantime, Thomas Mazzera closing now on Glenn Seaton as they come down to the left-hander.
Well, these two Peter Jackson cars have to do is get to the finish line. That's the 1-2 they wanted so badly. Now he'll also play a rear guard action with Thomas Mazzera.
Just 7 laps left.
5 seconds the gap from Jim Richards in first place, Alan Jones in second. And that's a visual gap back to his teammate Glenn Seaton in third, with Thomas Mazzera fourth.
We'll never really know whether Glenn dropped back to give a little assistance there to Alan and take the heat off him.
We can guess.
We can only guess. But very bad luck for John Bowe, that moment diving beneath seat, just the touch and getting it around sideways. He was in this with a big chance of picking up second in the championship, which would have been a big bonus for the Shell Racing team.
Good consistent performance from the Holden Racing Team Commodore as well. Thomas Mazzera at the wheel, him always the one. I think only his second week as the new Holden Racing Team manager. Been putting a lot of work in on the chassis to get the cars, the suspension set up they like. And there's Mark Scaife, disappointed lad. Very fast in qualifying, enjoying the speed of the new Commodore, but lives to fight another day. We go inside Dick Johnson. Fabulous race cam view from the roof of the Falcon EB. And it gives you a very wide panoramic view of just how quick these cars are going.
Well, Dick comes out of that corner, goes beneath the bridge.
Dick Johnson running in 8th position. It's been a tough day for Dick. And seeing the antics of John Bowe, a tough day for the Shell team, I imagine.
Well, of course, as we go to Bathurst, and of course the Tui's 1000, this will be some of the telemetry that we'll be able to generate from the car. Alan?
Yes, well, it's nice to see this kind of technology on screen for viewers at home. You can see that Dick's in 4th gear. He's just touched the brake pedal. He's still only doing over about 120k. RPM on the right between 6,000, 5,000 at the moment. Picking it up.
The pressure's on up here, though.
This.
Thomas Mazera and Glenn Seaton as the Commodore pushes its way through on the inside, and Brocky's come up just to join them.
Now, the interesting thing about this battle is that Peter Brock can still win the round today overall if he finishes third. If the positions stay the way they are, Jim Richards first, Alan Jones second. If Brock can sneak into third place, he'll win the day overall. I'm sure he's been made aware of that on his radio telecommunications, so he's putting in the big ones now as they pick through the slower traffic.
Now, between the telemetry and the radio and the lap boards and the television sets, these fellows are probably better informed than the astronauts have been.
So Brocky, carrying our Mobile One race cam, comes up here behind Glenn Seaton. Seaton has given way to Thomas Mazera, who gets away from him on the exit to the bridge.
Oh, the lock brakes. Oh.
I think Brocky's suffering a little bit from tire sponginess here. He's got the marshmallow cities on his hands. He's having to nurse the car. You can see him coaxing it and being a bit timid.
It's the battle for third, fourth and fifth. We're riding with Peter Brock now.
5 laps to go in the grand final heat of the Shell Australian Touring Car title.
See how physical these cars are, and the Commodores particularly. They use power steering systems as opposed to the Fords, and they've really got to muscle those steering wheels, Alan.
They are. A little bit of drivetrain shudder there on Brocky's car. That machine gun sound to some echo coming up from the drive tunnel off the tail shafts revs.
Brocky's a busy boy at the moment. He goes beneath the bridge, comes up, sits in here behind Glenn Seaton. You're a pretty busy boy, Peter Brock.
Yeah, I am. I got pushed right back, pushed wide very badly at the start. So now I'm just trying to get back through the field, and I'll tell you what, to catch is one thing, Mike. To pass is another at the moment.
I was going to say, you'd have your hands full here with Glenn Seaton and Thomas Mazera.
Yeah, I can catch them pretty easily, but traffic and the narrowness of the circuit, as you can see, if you can see up the pictures of the car, you know, it's pretty narrow.
It certainly is. How are the tyres?
It's beautiful. Actually, on my own, I'm doing quickest times in the race, which as I catch someone, I'm back to sort of 10.5. So the car's certainly got what it takes. It's just a matter of the luck of the draw, I guess.
Okay, go back to it, Pete. Thanks, mate.
Okay.
Peter Brock cooled a cucumber in the Mobile One office. Gets it down once more down this long straight, tucks him for the draft behind the Peter Jackson Falcon. Very evenly matched, the Commodores and the Falcons now.
You wouldn't have thought this could have happened in the opening rounds of the Touring Car Championship, Alan. I mean, the Fords really did hold sway, and the very thought of Brocky coming from behind to try and nail Glenn Seaton with a few to go.
No, it did seem incredible, but with the season behind them, and let's not be too unkind, they did need some help in the spoiler department, and once they got that aero pack right, they're able to capitalize more with their suspension.
Not only that, but it's made racing out of it too. Very even racing between the two marks at the front of the field.
Little wheel lifting there by Glenn Seaton just shows the lateral forces that are being transmitted through these cars. Very brave driving. One wheel up is no great problem, but there's Brocky on 2 wheels.
Isn't he having a day and a half? They go through. Neil Crompton is next. They head downhill. Coming up behind him would be Wayne Gardner, who's driven very consistently all day here at Oran Park.
Meanwhile, at the front of the pack, Jim Richards has extended his lead over Alan Jones to 8 seconds, so Jim Richards well in control of the Winfield Commodore.
2 laps remain. As we count them down, Jimmy Richards still the race leader in the Winfield Commodore. Wayne Gardner goes through, gaining a little on Neil Crompton the last lap and a half of this race.
Well, apart from a little bodywork there on Mark Scaife's car, pretty well every one of these vehicles will go to Bathurst tomorrow, change a diff, and be ready for action on Tuesday in the 2 East track test.
It'll be fascinating to see who comes up with the top speed on Conrod Straight on Tuesday.
Wayne Gardner been doing a bit of testing for Bridgestone, getting more and more time in the car, certainly feeling more comfortable in it.
Here's John Baugh trying to come back.
Oh,
don't. Not the boss.
not the boss.
Not the moment to impress here.
Whoa! Tail out there from Dick.
Nicely caught. Classic oversteer slide. Didn't take his foot off the gas.
And he's saying, boss, get out. Give me a go at this. And Dick says, all right, give it your hardest. Dick's racing him. Larry sideways coming out of there, and they've got Perkins as well behind them. The stick sits in the draft of John Bow running down the front straight. Then elects to run the inside to see if he's got a bit more mumbo-jumbo. He hasn't. Both very, very even indeed as they come to the left-hander.
Dick going wide again.
Just an indication, looking at the fortunes of the Shell team throughout the 93 season, how dominant they were in the late 80s with the Sierra, just how competitive this new category is with the cars, similar cars racing together. Larry Perkins coming under fire once again from Tony Longhurst, as if he hasn't seen enough of this car throughout the day.
This is all happening in the last lap or so of the race.
Making life very hard for the Castrol driver.
This is what's going to happen all day long at Bathurst, Mike.
As Longhurst gains, Jimmy Richards, meantime, continues. On their last lap. Richards has already commenced that, as Larry Perkins has Tony Longhurst all over the tail of the Castrol Commodore. See if Larry can get away from the bimmer down the front straight. In our leader going through, halfway through his final lap, Jimmy Richards, driven superbly here today. You really see a dent on Jim's car. That's because he times everything so perfectly. A good day for the team as Jim carts it down over towards the left-hander. They'll take him up to the dogleg. So Richards, the exit of that corner.
Plenty of squirt there. You can see when the car leaps like that, it's just controlled power unleashing itself.
Last corner coming up now. As Jimmy Richards comes off the final turn, heading down to the checkered flag. He'll take the grand final race, but the championship will go to Glenn Seaton for the Peter Jackson team, and Alan Jones will come in second here today in the Peter Jackson Falcon. Well, Thomas Mazzera is across the line, got in for second. Jones finishes back in third, so Mazzera was the man who made up a lot of ground in the final couple of laps of this race. Came from nowhere to pick up second, just knocking Alan Jones off in the last lap. Let's check them out for you on the Shell race score. Jimmy Richards, the race winner. Fine drive to Thomas Mazzera. Alan Jones finished in third, gets second in the title. Glenn Seaton in fourth spot, and rounding out the five, Peter Brock in 05. And welcome back to Oran Park Raceway. Some happy scenes here today. The winner of the 2 litre series, not only today, but the national champion, and that is Peter Dillman for Impala Kitchens. Peter, congratulations.
Thanks, Mike. I should thank Impala Kitchens, I guess, because they've stuck with us through the year. And also Castrol, they've helped us out. We've got here with a car that's effectively 7 years old, and we haven't had a large budget, but it's been one hell of a year, and we tried hard, and I guess we got there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Peter Dillman. Third overall today in points for the championship round for the Holden Racing team, Thomas Mazzera. Great drive. Fantastic drive in the latter part of Heat 2.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here on a podium, and we had a bit of a reconstruction in our team, and this is the credit to our sponsors, Telecom Mobile Net and Bridgestone, and we promised them better result at Sandown and Bathurst.
Well done, the team manager for HRT. Second overall today, and going to Bathurst in a few weeks. He's back, Peter Brock.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the ovation. The car was excellent. I certainly had some problems passing a few people in that final heat, but you know, I could catch very, very quickly. So I'm looking forward to Tuesday, Mike. It's going to be a fantastic day.
Congratulations, Brocky. Look forward to seeing you at the mountain. And the winner today, fantastic drive, Jim Richards for Holden. Well done, Jimbo.
Thanks, Mike. First of all, thank you very much to Winfield, Yokohama, and of course Fred Gibson and all the boys. The car was just fantastic.
Well done, Jimmy Richards. Fantastic drive. And of course, because of the way the points have worked out today, would you please welcome to the rostrum the runner-up in the Shell Series for 1993, Alan Jones, and your new champion, Glenn Seaton. Well done, AJ. Gee, that was a pretty tight race.
It certainly was. I tell you, we were in more trouble than Speed Gordon this weekend, and
I didn't think I'd be standing here, and the team had these printed first and second. I thought they were going cheap this afternoon.
Congratulations to you and to our new national champion, team owner and driver, Glenn Seaton. Well done.
Thanks, Mike. Well, it's fantastic. Like, I've been struggling for so many years to come out. Thank you to my sponsors, Peter Jackson, all the boys on the team, and Bridgestone Tyres, STP, and Ingersoll Rand. Thank you very much.
Well done, Glenn. Tom Smith, the motor racing manager for Shell, to present the trophy, Tom, to Jimmy Richards.
Jim?
Today's winner.
Congratulations, Jim, on behalf of Shell. It's nice to see you back on the roster, mate. You've done a magnificent job.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks to all for coming, and you're not whatever I said last time.
Final championship points then. Glenn Seaton, the winner, on 191 to Alan Jones 148. 8 shy was John Bauer. In third place, Jimmy Richards fourth, and Dick Johnson in fifth. What a series, Alan Moffat.
Well, it was, Mike, and I think a credit to all the teams that participated. Everyone tried hard, and we're going to have a great Bathurst in front of us.
We certainly will, and we look forward to your company on Sunday, October 3. Sport Motor Racing Special has been brought to you by Shell. Go well, go Shell.